Here's a figure that stops most men in their tracks. From about the age of 30 onward, the average man loses somewhere in the range of 3 to 8% of his muscle every single decade. And after 60, that quiet drain tends to speed up rather than slow down. Do the arithmetic on that, and it's sobering. A man in his 70s may be carrying a good deal less muscle than he did in his 30s, and most of it left so gradually that he never noticed a single day of it going. He just found himself, one afternoon, struggling with a bag of groceries that used to be nothing, or hauling himself out of a low chair with a grunt he doesn't remember making before. But here's the part I actually want you to hear, and it's the reason this video exists. That drain is not fixed. It is not inevitable at the rate most men experience it. And, this is the remarkable bit, it is reversible to a meaningful degree at almost any age. There are men in their 80s and 90s who have measurably rebuilt strength. So let me show you exactly what's happening inside your muscles, why the usual advice misses the mark for men our age, and the one thing that genuinely turns it around. I'm not your physician, and this is here to help you understand your own body, not to replace advice from someone who's actually examined you. If you have heart trouble, joint problems, or you've been inactive for a long while, run a new exercise plan past your doctor first. That's not a formality, it's sensible. Now let's look at what's really going on in there. Everything today rests on one idea, and once you have it, the rest falls into place. Your muscle is not a fixed possession. It's not like a bone you grew once and now simply own. Muscle is in constant motion, being broken down and rebuilt every single day of your life. Right now, as you sit there, your body is tearing down old muscle protein and building new muscle protein, continuously, in a running exchange. So the amount of muscle on your frame at any moment is simply the balance between those two rates. Build faster than you break down, and you gain. Break down faster than you build, and you lose. It's a set of scales, tipping slightly one way or the other every day. That's the whole mechanism. Muscle loss with age isn't your body forgetting how to have muscle. It's the scales tipping slowly, persistently toward the breakdown side and staying there. Which raises the real question. Why do the scales tip? Because the answer explains everything else, including why the standard advice so often fails men over 60. Several things push those scales in the wrong direction as we age, and they stack. The first is the one almost nobody explains to men, and it's the most important. As you get older, your muscles become harder to convince. In younger men, a decent meal with protein in it sends a strong signal that says, build, and the muscle responds enthusiastically. In older men, that same meal sends a noticeably weaker signal. The muscle hears it, but it shrugs. Researchers call this anabolic resistance, and in plain English it means this: you need a bigger nudge to get the same result. The exact same breakfast that built muscle for you at 35 may simply not be loud enough at 70. Your muscle isn't broken. It's just harder of hearing. The second is the wiring. Your muscles are controlled by nerves, and over the decades, some of those connections are lost. When a muscle fiber loses its nerve supply, it withers, and the fibers hit hardest are the fast, powerful ones, the type you'd use to catch yourself from a stumble or push out of a deep chair in a hurry. This is precisely why strength and power tend to fade faster than size does. A man can look roughly the same and be considerably weaker because it's the strong fibers going first. Third, the hormones we've talked about shift. Testosterone eases down, growth hormone released during deep sleep declines, and both of those were part of your build signal. Chronic stress and its cortisol push toward breakdown as well. And fourth, the plain one, most men simply move less as the years pass, and above all, they stop doing anything genuinely demanding. Which sets up the trap. Here's how it turns into a spiral, and I want you to see it clearly because a great many men are inside it right now without realizing. You lose a bit of muscle, so things become slightly harder. Because things are harder, you do a bit less of them. Without ever deciding to, you just take the elevator, skip the walk, ask someone else to carry it. Doing less removes the very stimulus your muscles needed to justify keeping themselves. So you lose more muscle, which makes things harder still. Around and around, each turn a little tighter, and the whole thing so gradual that it never announces itself. And this matters far beyond how your arms look. Muscle is where a lot of your blood sugar gets used up, so losing it nudges you toward metabolic trouble. Muscle drives your metabolism, so less of it makes weight easier to gain. And most importantly of all, muscle is what lets you catch yourself when you trip, get off the floor, carry your own life without asking. The reason doctors care so much about muscle in older men has very little to do with vanity. It has to do with staying independent, on your feet, in your own home, living on your own terms. That's the real stake here. Think about what a fall actually costs a man at our age. It isn't just the bruise. It's often the hip, the hospital stay, the weeks of lying still, and the muscle that vanishes during those weeks, which makes the next fall likelier. A great many men trace the beginning of their real decline to a single stumble. And the strength to not fall, or to catch yourself when you do, is built quietly in the years beforehand, by men who kept asking something of their legs. This is one of those rare cases where the boring work you do today is the thing that decides how the next 20 years go. Now, given the mechanism, you can see why the ordinary advice men get so often disappoints them. Stay active is well meant, but a gentle stroll, while genuinely good for you in many ways, sends almost no build muscle signal at all. Walking is wonderful for your heart, your head, and your blood sugar. It will not hold your muscle for you because it doesn't challenge the muscle hard enough to make keeping it worthwhile in your body's accounting. And eat healthy often means, in practice, eating lighter as we age. Smaller appetite, smaller meals, less meat, more toast and tea. But given anabolic resistance, eating less protein at exactly the age when you need a louder signal is precisely backwards. A lot of older men are quietly underfueling the very process they're trying to protect. So we have men doing everything they were told, walking daily, eating sensibly, and still watching their strength drain away, then concluding it's just age. It isn't. The advice was simply aimed at a younger body. Right. Let me give you what genuinely tips the scales back, and I'm putting the big one first because nothing else on this list replaces it. You have to challenge the muscle. Resistance training, meaning asking your muscles to work against real resistance, is the strongest signal you can send, and it's the only one that reliably reverses the loss. This is the lever. It doesn't mean a gym full of grunting 20-year-olds unless you want that. It means resistance bands in your living room, dumbbells, body weight, sitting down and standing up from a chair without using your hands, wall push-ups, step-ups. What matters is that the last few repetitions actually feel hard for you, because hard for you is the message that travels. 2 or 3 sessions a week, hitting your legs, back, chest, and arms is enough to change the trajectory. Studies putting frail people in their 80s and 90s on resistance programs have shown real, measurable gains in strength. It is genuinely never too late, and that's not a motivational slogan, it's a finding. And one principle that separates men who keep gaining from men who stall. Nudge it up over time. Your body adapts to whatever you ask of it. So if the same 10 chair stands were hard in January and easy by March, that's success, and it's also your cue to ask for a little more. 1 extra repetition, a slightly heavier band, a deeper sit. You're not chasing records, you're just making sure the demand stays honest. Muscle responds to being asked for something it can't already do easily. Second, feed the signal. Because of anabolic resistance, older men generally need more protein than the standard advice suggests, not less. Just as usefully, spread it across the day rather than loading it all into dinner. A man who has toast for breakfast, soup for lunch, and a big steak at night may only be sending one real build signal all day. Getting decent protein at each meal, eggs or Greek yogurt in the morning, fish or beans or chicken at lunch, sends the message 3 times instead of once. That distribution alone helps. Third, protect the surrounding conditions we've covered before. Deep sleep is when a lot of repair happens. Managing stress keeps cortisol from pushing the scales toward breakdown. And if you're carrying extra weight, losing some helps your hormones, though be careful not to lose weight by simply eating less of everything, because that tends to strip muscle along with the fat. Combine any weight loss with resistance work and enough protein. Fourth, and this one is worth knowing, watch out for long stretches of inactivity. Being laid up in bed for a week or 2 after an illness or an operation can cost an older man a startling amount of muscle very quickly, far faster than a younger man would lose it. If you're recovering from something, ask your doctor how soon you can start moving and gently loading those muscles again, because getting back on your feet promptly protects more than you'd guess. If you've been feeling the change already, the chair that's harder to rise from, the jar you can't open, the stairs that now register, I don't want you reading that as evidence of decline you have to accept. Read it as a signal, because that's exactly what it is, and signals can be answered. Of everything we discuss on this channel, this may be the area where an ordinary man has the most power to change his own trajectory, and the results tend to arrive faster than people expect, often within weeks. You don't need to be an athlete. You don't need to be brave or extreme. You need to give your muscles a reason to stay, regularly, and they will respond at 60, at 70, at 80. Bodies are more willing than we give them credit for. They're just waiting to be asked. So let's come back to those scales one last time. Every day of your life, your body is deciding how much muscle is worth keeping, and it makes that decision based on the evidence you give it. Give it no demand, and it quietly, reasonably lets muscle go, because why maintain what's never used? Give it a real demand 2 or 3 times a week, and it holds on and often builds. Use it or lose it turns out to be one of those old sayings that's exactly right, and now you know the machinery underneath it. Your muscle is not draining away because of your birthday. It's responding, honestly and logically, to what you ask of it. So ask something of it. That's the whole answer, and it's in your hands. If you've been inactive a long time, or you have heart or joint issues, talk to your doctor before starting, and consider a session or 2 with a trainer who works with older adults, so you learn the movements safely. Starting well matters more than starting hard. If this gave you a reason to believe your strength isn't simply leaving on schedule, a like helps push it toward the next man who's quietly given up on his. Subscribe if you'd like more of these, made for men our age with no nonsense attached. And here's my question for the comments, an honest one. What's the everyday task that first made you notice your strength wasn't what it was? The chair, the stairs, the shopping, the jar? Naming it is oddly powerful, and I read these, they steer what I make next. Since so many men assume this is all down to their hormones, my straight breakdown of what really happens to testosterone as men age is the natural companion to this one. And it'll tell you honestly how much of this muscle story is hormonal and how much isn't. It's on the end screen just ahead and in the description too. Go move something heavy this week, carefully, and I'll see you in the next one.